necessarily about sexuality or even about fashion or how you dress. My thing was always about anyone who felt marginalised, who felt on the outside for any reason, whether because they were big or because they were old or because they were too skinny or they had a big nose, anyone. It was like, you know, what I was trying to do was create the kind of international outsiders club, you know, and I kind of still feel that way. I mean, I think in the past 5 years, I would say, I've had to kind of re-look at myself and kind of ask a very important question, you know, what the hell are you? You know, what is your purpose? What are you doing? You know, what's the point of you? And I think what I've discovered asking that question is that my kind of message is the same, but I think I'm grown up now and I'm, I think, a bit smarter, and so I'm able to deliver that message in a much more powerful way. You know, and I feel that's still important, because I think when you look around the world, as much as kind of Bowie changed society, as much as I changed society, things go backwards, and you have people all around the world, you know, struggling with their sexuality in countries where there are terrible, you know, regimes that suppress you for being gay or for being different or for being lesbian. You know, countries like South Africa and obviously the Middle East, where they're hanging gay men, you know, all over the world. So there's work to be done. So I really feel like my message actually is more important than it's ever been. And I think it's much more political now. You know, it's much more political, because I think being yourself is a hugely political act. I think it's the starting point. You know, when anybody says to me, what would you say to like a young guy or a young woman who's struggling with their sexuality, the first thing I would say is, first of all, you have to love yourself. That's the starting point. You have to take ownership of who you are and your experience. You have to take ownership of that, and then the rest is kind of a lot easier in some ways, because, you know, the universe kind of does reflect how you feel about yourself, you know. And I think that if you walk around, you know, with a sign on your back saying, I'm not worthy, kick me, people will. So I think the starting point is always, I love who I am, you know. And not from the point of view of being superior or inferior, but the same, you know. And I would say that, you know, for me, Bowie is part of that kind of daisy chain. I call it a daisy chain of people that have changed the world. And I would say I'm part of that now as well. And there's other people, Oscar Wilde, Quentin Crisp, there's endless list of people, Mark Bolan, you know, Divine, Sylvester, you know, who else? Donna Summer, you know. There's so many people. Sorry?
It's a good chain.
It's a daisy chain, yeah. It's a daisy chain of people that have kind of, sometimes deliberately, sometimes by accident, affected, you know, the way people think. And I think that's what music does. I mean, I think the best kind of music is music that is subversive and kind of, you know, political, you know, in the sense that it seeks to kind of have an alternative view of things. You know, it gives you an alternative point of view about the world, and I think that's kind of what excites me, you know. I mean, obviously, I like a good singer, I like a good melody, but I think if you can add kind of substance to that, you know, some kind of mystical substance, some kind of stylishness, I think that it makes it even more interesting.
So how did you first discover that you were different, or did you feel different?
Well, I think nobody ever really knows they're different. I think other people tell you you're different, you know, because obviously when you're a kid, if you're not interested in playing football and climbing trees and being a soldier, you know, if you're kind of more interested in pop music or hanging out with girls, collecting jewellery, then usually kids kind of tell you, something wrong with you, you're not like us. And, you know, it's kind of like that in the wild as well. You know, if there's a kind of a cub that's injured, they attack it. And I think human beings do the same thing, you know. We are very animalistic in that respect. So it's not that you ever really know you're different, you know, but you're kind of reminded all the time. And then I think there's a point in kind of adolescence where you have to make a decision, you know, do I disappear or do I show them? You know.